All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for coming today. Welcome to our September Luncheon Lab on building an authority brand. I am really glad that you all could be here. And just as a way of housekeeping, this is being recorded and will be uploaded early next week to our YouTube channel. So be sure to follow along with that. There is a worksheet that will be covering during the luncheon lab, and that will be sent to you also. So thank you for spending this hour with me as we talk about this really exciting topic. And our sponsor for the luncheon lab is this new personal professional brand coaching program that I started called SOAR. SOAR stands for Stand Out and Rise, and it's really designed for early stage entrepreneurs, or perhaps people that aren't even ready to start their business just yet. They're sort of entertaining the idea, doing some research and background work, and they really want to create a standout personal brand to help support their new business venture. So I'm really looking for people that are coming out of corporations or jobs where they're unfulfilled and want to do something that is aligned with their passion and their expertise. And but they're a little bit reticent to put themselves out there fully as the face of a business. We use branding principles and coaching in a one-on-one setting virtually to help them sort of overcome those things and also learn the things that they need to do to really step into that role as the face of a new and successful business. So Stand Out and Rise, where you can learn a little bit more, standoutandrise.com. All right. So I'm Reggie Holmes. I'm a creative director of Enthuse Creative and founder. And for the past 9 years, I've helped a number of businesses and organizations to strategically build their brands from the inside out. And I've helped them to create various types of marketing collateral and brand assets to help continue to keep their brand in front of their audience in fresh ways and in ways that help them to communicate their value and what makes them unique. So I love to do that work. I love to help people that have big ideas turn that into big impact. So that's why I'm here today. And I also love to teach and to share things that I've learned, insights that I've gained over 12 to 15 years of doing this type of work to really help other business owners to be able to understand brand. I believe that when you start a business, you're not just a business owner, you're a brand owner, and brands are very powerful and very valuable. And so the more that I can equip business owners to really know the asset that their brand is and how to use it to create even more value for them, for their businesses, that's a great thing. And that's what I'm really feel like I'm, put on this earth to do, among other things. So that's me. Let's go ahead and jump into our material. I always look at these luncheon labs as networking opportunities as well. I realize that many of you may know each other, but some of you may not. So feel free to put your own contact information into the chat and just let me know, why you came, why this topic was, interesting to you, why you decided to take an hour out of your busy schedule to learn a little bit more about building an authority brand. We'd love to know that. So, and thanks again for coming. So I always like to share, some takeaways, some things that you can expect as part of the luncheon lab, what I hope you get out of it. These are just a few of the basic ideas. What does it mean to be an authority brand? What is that idea all about? Why does it matter? How can it help your business? I mean, you're all here because you have a business of some kind, an organization, and you want to maximize the value in it. You want it to be as strong and as profitable and as relevant and meaningful as possible. And establishing yourself as an authority brand can help you do that. So why does it matter? And what are the things that can help you have more of this, idea of brand authority or less? Obviously, there are things that you can do to build that, and there are things that you can do to sort of erode that and take that away. And obviously, we want to do the things that help us to grow our authority brands And then lastly, just some practical things that you can do to start to build that. If this is indeed a direction that you feel like would be beneficial for your brand, how do you start to do that? We'll talk about some of those practical things. All right. And so I want to kind of start or ground our conversation with this quote. Your brand is not just about giving people something to buy. It's about giving them something to believe in. And I really like this quote, and I think it helps to kind of frame our discussion about being an authority brand. Authority is something that exists, but it's also something that people believe in. And obviously, we don't mean authority like the police or the government, but really, as I'll kind of touch on later, it's the idea of leadership, leading the way in your space, leading the way in your industry, leading the way in terms of how your business and your brand is perceived. And the great thing about brand authority is it's not just for your customers and clients, although that is who matters the most. It's also something that is meaningful to your competitors and to your partners and other people that are in your space as well. And so it's one of the few things that can actually matter not only to the people that you're selling your products or services to, but to the people that you are directly competing against. And so ultimately, we don't want to give people something that's not real, that's not genuine. And when we're creating the position and perception of being an authority brand, we don't just do it so we can get more sales. We really are trying to lean into something that we believe very personally, and we want our customers and audience to be able to believe in those things as well. And so I think framing the idea of authority in terms of leadership is kind of where we want to start, and it's really about giving people something to believe in. So these are a few sort of companies or entities that I thought about as I started to think about what I think about being an authority brand. So I'm not sure if everyone's familiar, but there's a relatively new company called Masterclass, and Masterclass basically brings together celebrities, experts, people who we would consider authorities in their various areas. It's basically an online platform where people can sign up to take classes and sort of sit at the feet of these people that are experts in different disciplines, whether it's music or something related to sports or cooking. They have world-class chefs that can teach you about various things related to cooking. And so they're all kind of organized in many different categories. But this idea sort of speaks to, or this business concept speaks to the idea of how much we sort of value authority, right? People would be, we may or may not ever have access to one of these masters of their craft. But through this online platform, you're able to sort of learn from them in a way that feels very personal. And you can get that knowledge from these people who we would consider authorities or experts. So this is just an example of how we've used technology to sort of bring this idea of authority to the masses. Anyone that signs up can learn, from one of these people that they may not ever have access to in real life. This week, or within the past couple of weeks, they've released some new U.S. News and World Report rankings, and I remember being at least somewhat interested about these rankings when I was in school, and okay, where I'm looking at going to, these colleges, or where are they ranked on this list? And so there are a lot of different opinions about the rankings themselves, but they're still continuing to do them after many, many decades. And they actually hold some weight, if for no one, then, the universities. I definitely have seen my alma mater, several other universities, they certainly tout where they finish and end up in these rankings, because it's meaningful, right? This entity is respected as an authority of compiling all this data from all these various institutions and putting together this list. And so the fact that it's cited in so many places after all this time sort of speaks to the authority that, that has. And I think a little bit closer to home, I have right here a copy of the Washington Business Journal, right? And I like that publication because it gives me a lot of detailed information specifically about, the Washington metro area. And so I look at them as experts and authority in what's happening in the DC area. And they have business journals in many different places, and they all sort of function the same way. But their brand has built, that reputation over time, and it's great that it's focused on a specific location, and they're not responsible for data and research and all these things in other places. I mean, they have people for that, but when I want to know about what's going on in my city, in my location, this is a great resource to turn to. And they've built that business journal name, and now they're able to leverage that in other places, Philadelphia, New York, or other places where there's business activity happening. So these are just a few examples of things that I thought about when I thought about what makes an authority brand, and sort of where that comes from, and why that's important, how that shows up in the modern world. And so I would love for you to put into the chat what comes to your mind when you think about an authority brand, or a brand that has authority that you personally look to and respect and seek out for the authority and thought leadership that it contains. So if you can think of an example, feel free to put that in the chat. All right, so just kind of starting from why and sort of narrowing it down a little bit. What is authority? So the dictionary definition, I love to kind of always start with the dictionary definition. It's just power to influence or command thought, opinion, or behavior. And people, that first word, power, like people, they get a little funny about that word, right? And so as I mentioned, I like to ground the idea of authority not in power or control or commanding anything, but really leadership, leading the way, and authoritative and not authoritarian. And that means that in an authoritarian state, there's one leader. And I think thinking about your brand in terms of authority and leadership, that's not the right way to go about it. There's room for many different leaders. It's not one person or one entity that gets to be the leader and sort of influence everything, but there's room and space for everybody to sort of find their lane and create their path of influence in brand authority. And it's certainly not about telling people what to do or what to think, but rather putting that information in front of people to consider and to consume. And so this is sort of a healthy, good way to kind of frame authority. It's not about sort of being in a spot and locking others out of that spot, and then from there being able to control or dictate to others. It's really about having a position that allows you to be able to engage in conversation, to lead conversation, to maybe steer conversation away from somewhere that you feel like it shouldn't be, or to get people to think differently about a topic or a subject area. So that's authority in a general sense. What is brand authority? So brand authority refers to the trust a brand has earned among its customers, and the degree to which they see your brand as a subject matter expert. And so you'll see this word trust come up many times throughout this workshop. That's really sort of the operative word when we think about brand authority. Trust is at the core of this whole entire discussion. And so there's a variety of factors that can influence your brand authority, your content, your online presence and engagement over social media. So we'll talk about more specific and practical things that impact brand authority. But those are some of the most obvious things and sort of high touch things that we see and interact with on a daily basis. And I think there is maybe a caveat in looking at things like this because they are so easy for us to access nowadays. It's so readily available. It's easy to look at individuals who have sort of mastered some of these things and sort of think of them as an authority when, you know, based on how we're going to break this topic down, they may not be. They may just be great at putting themselves out there and grabbing attention. And so this idea of being an authority brand is a little bit different than just getting the most attention, getting the most likes and views and things like that. So, but these are sort of where you can really start to look to think about, okay, you know, who is really has brand authority. So what is it not? What brand authority is not. So these are some of the things that I mentioned. It's not simply charisma or strong personality, right? We know individuals, we know organizations that are always in the news. They're very much out there and have a very outsized presence, hype and name recognition, going viral, and then opinion-based commentary. I think in the world that we live in, you know, everybody has access to a, you know, technology that allows them to be able to get their message out, whatever their message is. When we're thinking about an authority brand, it's not simply those that take advantage of the tools that are available to be the loudest or even, you know, sort of be the first or have the most controversial or you know, thought-provoking ideas or opinions. We want to think about brand authority a little bit differently. So this is the challenge of the times that we live in, though, because the people that are doing some of these things are going to get the most attention. But I can be on the mic and, you know, do my podcasts or videos and all those sorts of things and have a large following because I've learned to master those mediums. But that in and of itself doesn't just qualify me to be an authority. And I forgot to mention in the beginning, if you have a question or a comment, Elizabeth, my assistant, is monitoring the chat. So feel free to put any comments or feedback that you have to something I say in the chat. We'll try to save some time at the end to go through those, but would love to know your reactions to things as we kind of go through this material. All right, so we talked about brand authority, which is the practice. Let's talk about an authority brand, which is sort of the position. And so my definition of an authority brand is a brand that can influence audience perception and practice through customer trust in its leadership position based on knowledge and expertise in a given area. So that's a lot there, but the whole idea is that because they have this position that they've carved out based on their knowledge and expertise in an area, they are then able to influence the way that the audience sees them and also behavior. And it's because people trust them. And so this is, you know, whether it's implicitly or explicitly stated, I feel like most businesses want to be an authority brand in you know, some way, shape, or form. It's not necessarily something that you're not going to have it day one. You're going to go after it. You're going to be able to establish it and become more entrenched in that over time. And some of the practical things that we'll look at will be keys to once you've decided as a business, as an organization to be an authority brand. There are things that you can do to continue to build on that. It has to be intentional. They seek to leverage knowledge as a key differentiator. And what they say is, we know we know your problem, we know the solution that works. And so a lot of people, anyone can say, hey, I know about X topic. The next level is, as speaking to my customer, I know your problem. And the level behind that, or even beyond that, is I understand your problem, and I have the solution, but I know the solution that works. And so authority brands make an effort to not only communicate what they know, but how they know that what they know works, if that makes any sense. So it's, again, certainly something that is an intentional position. Someone may sort of stumble into that position, but they won't be able to retain that without intentional focus. If you are just appointed the leader of some organization, you have to actually accept what it means to be a leader of that organization, and then do the things that are expected of the leader of that organization, or you won't stay in that role. And it's similar with being an authority brand. It's something that you have to decide or choose, and then embrace, and then continue to do the things that would be expected of a leader or authority brand. All right. And so just in general, what do brands do? And so I believe there's 4 things that brands are sort of responsible for, the core 4 functions, if you will, to identify, to connect, to communicate, and differentiate. And so authority is a key differentiator. And it's also a communicator, which allows, to communicate the nuances of your brand, your position, your value proposition. So of these 4 things, authority is a differentiator. I mean, there can be more than, one leader, if you will, but those that have chosen that path and have decided to pursue being an authority brand, they will be separated a little bit from those that are not focused on doing that or becoming that. And when you have attained that position, it allows you to communicate, what you do, how you're a little bit different, how your approach is different, in some different ways than, others who are not necessarily trying to be established as an authority brand. And as I mentioned, they lean into it as a part of their business or brand strategy. Even if you sort of stumbled into it, again, it's something that you're going to have to choose to do and develop as, okay, we want to build our business around this idea of being authority, in this area, in our industry, because they recognize its value as a competitive advantage. So you could think about a business that is, let's say they're newer and, they're cutting edge, and they've sort of built their business based on technology and sort of the new and innovative way that things are done. But there is a company that has less capability with some of the technology-based parts of the business, but they've been around for a very long time. They've seen problems, solved problems from before this newer company existed, right? There's value in maybe that newer company acquiring that older company, not because they're bringing anything to the table as far as, new technology, but because they've got the track record, right? They've solved the problems for a long time, and they have a history of success and reputation and things like that. So if your goal is to not just be the new kids on the block with the fancy tech, but to really be established as, authority brand in your industry, then it may make more sense to, acquire this company that otherwise they might overlook, because they're not doing the same thing that we're doing in the same way. But if our goal is to be able to be established as an authority brand, and that sort of changes the business strategy. That changes the way that the business operates. So that's just an example of how having this idea in your mind and deciding to be established as an authority brand can sort of change the whole way that you operate or focus your business. So there's 4 things that, I've kind of identified here as the elements of an authority brand. Renown, that's simply being, well known or recognized for what it is that you do, having a recognizable name. Again, your customers and competitors should know who you are. Resume, detailed experience in your industry, in your space. You know what you are doing. Similarly, respect, having a great professional reputation in your space. So not just a recognizable name, but a great reputation. And then results, being able to provide that tangible evidence of your expertise. So not only can you list what you've done on paper, but you can demonstrate and show how your skill set has been established and how you've used that to move to the top of your market, and really be established as an authority brand. And so this doesn't necessarily mean that you have the biggest company, that you have the most revenue, but it is an approach that allows you to be solid. And because it's rooted on trust, it helps you to be better positioned to withstand, ups and downs and fluctuations in your industry also. Because people, again, are always looking for not just something to buy, but something to believe in. And if you can lead the way as an authority in your space, that will be valuable even when maybe you're not selling as much. All right. So why does all this matter? As I've alluded to before, there is a trust crisis. There's a statistic from this Adobe Trust Report, which is published earlier this year, I believe. It says that 75% of executives say that since the pandemic began, they've had a harder time building and maintaining trust with their customers. So certainly from the company side, it's hard to build that trust and to keep that trust. And, this is kind of across the board. That's 3 out of 4. It's people recognize that there are many challenges to trust. People have been abused by authorities. They've been lied to. They've been stolen from. They've had their privacy breached, their data sold. And so it's not just about having the right answers. It's about being able to deliver the answers in a way that connects and convinces, that overcomes your audience's inherent trust problems. Many of us have maybe been in a bad relationship, and what happens sometimes when you're in a bad relationship, you end up with trust problems. And so a lot of the marketplace, they have some trust issues. And so authority brands seek to counter against that by being something that people can trust in. In general, we listen to and follow those that we perceive, as authorities. And so you can see how this is not just about being the one that sells the most or being the one that has the loudest voice. But when all of that is happening in the marketplace, being the one that really is sort of like that lighthouse lighting the way for people, so they can not telling them what to do, but helping them to make informed, insightful decisions. And because of that, being considered an authority can lead to more opportunities and revenue because you're eliminating a barrier and creating, that powerful connection point. Again, when people have trust issues, they don't want to just be dictated to and told what to do, but they do want to be informed. They want to be enlightened. They want to be inspired. They want to have what they need to be able to make the best decision for them. And that way, you're, I like to use this analogy of the fence and the bridge. So with that idea of barriers or connection points, you're removing a fence and building a bridge for your customer. And so if you think about where they are, sort of across the board, there are these trust issues. You're either in your approach trying to be an authority brand, you're removing this fence and you're building a bridge to your customer. And neither of them is like, you're not just, not just telling them what to do or what to think, but you're making it easier for them to cross from one place to another. And recognizing that they have, maybe this trust barrier up, using your position of authority to sort of take that down, give them reasons to believe. So I really like that idea of just kind of, there's a fence and then there's the bridge. So you're taking the fence down, putting up a bridge so you can connect better with your customer, recognizing that while they inherently may not trust, you're positioning yourself to be something or someone that they can trust in. So what are some tactics and traits that enhance authority? These are just a few things, add value. You don't always need to sell, share, don't sell, right? We inherently sort of find people that are selling all the time a little bit untrustworthy. And so if you want to be known, to leverage your knowledge, to leverage your expertise, you can't always lead with the sale. It's amazing how positioning yourself as the authority will lead to sales, but I believe it's best practice to not go for that all the time right away. Try to add value without that coming into the picture. Show and tell. So don't just tell people what you know or tell them what you've done, but show them, demonstrate. Case studies, examples, all those things are good for enhancing authority. The ability to stay above the fray. I think I'll talk about this a little bit later, but there's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of disagreement. The world that we live in today. I think the people that I most respect, the brands and entities that I most respect, they may have opinions, but they don't get involved in some of the nasty commentary and back and forth that is very common, particularly in online spaces. I think you need to be able to hear from all opinions, all sides and points of view, listen, and then provide value through what you have to say, not just react and respond, but really sort of be above that. I think I'm going to respect you a whole lot more rather than, stooping to the level of others who may not take that approach. And I think also just a commitment to study, to research and to new ideas, because as we know, the world is constantly changing. There's lots of things that are being learned all the time. We live in an environment where everyone has access to, maybe more information than at any time ever in history. And so, you might have been the authority 10 to 15 years ago, but certainly even like 3 years ago, the world that we live in today is much, much different. And so if you want to continue to be relevant as an authority, I think you have to show a commitment to learning, to new ideas, to study. I want to shout out Marie, who's here today. She's excellent at this, right? Marie knows a lot. She has read tons of books and resources. But every week at her networking event, she has something new and fresh to share because she's committed to learning, committed to personal and professional development. And so when Marie wants to speak about, sales and training, she could always rely on her years of experience. But what helps her to remain sort of, in my mind, positioned as an authority in those areas is, she's demonstrated a commitment to continue to learn, continue to grow. And I think just in general, that's attractive to people. And so if you're trying to be established as an authority, that's going to help you. So, and then the tactics and traits that erode authority, as you sort of mentioned, selling all the time. It's fine to do that, but in terms of how you position what you're doing, I think you don't necessarily want to have that approach all the time. Deception, bait and switch, like these are just things that in general, as people, make us feel icky and don't create that connection that we really want. If we think about authority as leadership, we don't want to follow people that have these practices. Partisanship and partiality, again, just needing to sort of be neutral in a lot of cases. Again, you can have your opinion, you can have your point of view, and express those things, but in terms of being able to listen to all and respond to all, there does need to be this sort of middle ground where you can be above some of those things that are happening, and really just be able to speak truth and give content and value that's going to be able to be helpful for everybody. And then this unwillingness to examine new ideas or to innovate. Again, just sort of relying on what you learned or knew in the past rather than committing to new ideas, and sort of, you can still kind of frame those things through what you've learned and what you've become a master expert in. But again, the world is changing so much, it doesn't make sense to simply rely on those things without at least being able to learn and understand the new ideas that are constantly being brought forth. All right. And so some benefits of building an authority brand, what I like to call trustability. I don't think that's a word, but your ability to be trusted. Clearly that matters a lot in the different statistics that we've looked at. There's a stat that says, so companies and organizations, they know that trust is important. Brand trust drives growth. There was an Edelman survey from 2021, and 61% of the respondents, these are customers, they were prepared to advocate for a brand if they fully trusted the brand. And then 57% were prepared to purchase a new product or service. So when we think about what makes people want to buy, it's not just you telling them to buy, it's really them being able to trust you, and authority is a great way to do that. Credibility, you know what you're talking about. Visibility, obviously, people want to interview, they want to have podcasts with, they want to read books from people that are authorities. They want to, and as we see here, people want to advocate for and buy from businesses that are authority brands. And so all those things will lead to more opportunities for you to, if you're an individual, to be out there and leverage your personal brand for thought leadership. If you're a company, to be able to have customers and clients who don't just buy one time, but they align with your values. They feel like you are someone that I should follow. And so they will continue to support your business. So not just one-time purchase, but really client retention. All right. And so quickly, I'll just kind of go through 6 keys to establishing brand authority. These are sort of the practical things that you can do. And a lot of this won't be anything that is revolutionary or that you maybe have not thought of yourself, but sort of putting them together kind of gives us a blueprint for how any of us could start to pursue this idea of being an authority brand. So produce and publish content viewed as authoritative. Whether that's books, reports, white papers, trade publications, journals, anything that is sort of looked at as a place where people who are authority figures write or have their content show up. And so you can do things on your own blogs and your own mediums, but look at opportunities to put those things out to a wider audience. And so consider some of these tools that are available to help you get more established as a true authority figure. So obtain and maintain certifications and credentials. That's pretty straightforward. But that shows to the world that you have invested in your leadership, and that's been vetted by someone else, rather than you simply saying that you're an expert or authority, that's certified by an outside independent entity, so that's always a good thing. Um, Understand and interpret data that is relevant, timely, and practical. And so this one is great because it's also something that any of us can do. So it's if you think about the idea of not just knowing, but knowing, why it's important, knowing how the solutions work. That's really what this is talking about. So the modern world, we have access to so much data, right? The statistics that I cited, that others have cited, they're readily available online. But the people that I sort of look at and follow, in terms of looking at them as authorities, in their space, they can look at the numbers and help people understand what the numbers mean. And so it's not enough to just have the numbers, because again, the numbers are everywhere. But taking that and saying, okay, this is what this statistic or this number means, and here's what we do with it. So I think consistently being able to do that in a way that's that doesn't lose people, that's not too in the weeds, but is very much like, okay, here's the data and here's what we do with it. I think that helps you to be established as a brand authority. And in every industry, no matter what that industry is, there's this type of data. There are these types of stats and things that are out there. I think the best people are able to kind of use them and use them in a way that makes it make sense for the person who doesn't quite know what that means. And I think about particularly, for example, the stock market, or everything that's happening in the marketplace as it relates to stocks and those types of things. So if Ken were to simply just tell me, well, these are the numbers, that's not as meaningful as, okay, here are a few data points, and here's what it means, and here's why it's relevant for you right now, and here's what you should do in response. So all those things sort of help us to be thought of and looked at as an authority. Again, it's not just about having the numbers, but like what can we do with it? And then along those lines, sort of conduct and share proprietary research. So I follow a company called Hinge, and Hinge is, among other things, a design firm. They're a marketing company. They do websites and marketing collateral and all those types of things. But Hinge is very well known as like a research firm. So they sort of start with research, and they will publish a blog about, well, here's what you should do for your marketing strategy. But it's all sort of founded on research, and they do their own studies, and this might not be within scope for a small business or anything like that, but even on a small level, as you're engaging with clients, those that sign, and then those that you talk to but don't actually sign, you can do research that helps you to better understand the marketplace, better understand your customers. And then that's proprietary, right? You can leverage that and say, okay, not only have I been a practitioner or a provider, but I've done this research in the course of servicing X amount of clients over the years, and here's what these numbers mean about sort of where our industry is going. That opens up a whole new set of opportunities, as opposed to just I get clients, I serve clients, and then we move on from there. But think about how you can create a wealth of data that might be valuable either to you or to others in your space. Create your own community events and experiences. And so I feel like the pandemic opened up this world to a lot more people than there used to be. And there's lots of opportunities for you to become, if nothing else, an authority on things in this community. And so There are people they're not internationally known, but they've created maybe their Facebook group or on some other channel, and they have a few hundred, a few thousand followers, and so that's all they need to sustain their business. And whenever people come there, interact there, they are positioned as the authority figure in that space, and they're able to lead and influence and sort of shape the way that people think and behave in that space. And that can be a virtual online community, that can be through experiences like conferences or other types of events. But think about how you can create a community where you can assume that authority position, and then be able to lead and influence in a direct way, with that small group of people. And then third-party testimonials and recommendations. There's nothing more powerful than others, bearing witness to your expertise and to your authority in the area. That's always going to be stronger than you talking about yourself. I went to an event the other night at the Tower Club, and I met a young man, and he was clearly very knowledgeable in his area. But I was talking to someone, and then he came up and started talking, and then didn't stop talking. And it was all about, what he knew. It was like he was rattling it off of a script or something. And it wasn't really a conversation at that point. It was just information. Right. And so, we didn't really converse much beyond that. But my point is, it's always better to have others sort of talk about your expertise and testify to your authority, as opposed to just yourself. So think about how you can incorporate the words of others that are respected, to sort of boost your own brand authority. Just a couple of client examples. These are my clients, real life people. So I work with Mark. He's a part of an organization called Organic Eye. And they basically are watchdogs for the organic food industry. There are a lot of people that slap the label organic on things, and the products aren't actually organic. And so Mark is he's involved in advocacy for that cause, but he's also a farmer, right? So he knows organic from not, right? He understands those practices very well. And so he'll go on podcasts and talk about, that subject, not just as a person who's sat in, front of Congress and talked about this stuff, but as someone who spends his time out at his farm in Wisconsin, actually hands-on with these products, right? So he knows what he's talking about. Similarly, I have a client, Anne, who is a physical therapist, and she's been a practitioner for a really long time. She's was here in the DC area. She went out to California. Now she is in the Philadelphia area, and has built a nice following as a practitioner. But now she's being invited to be on podcasts and do other things, really leveraging that expertise as someone who has experience. She has personal experience with the issues that she has become trained to help people with. And so being authentic and real about experience, coupled with being a recognized, respected practitioner, has allowed her to be positioned to have some of these other opportunities where, she can go beyond just being hands-on with patients to really talking about the journey, and now it's out in front of a much larger audience. So those are just a couple of examples. Some tips in general: engage without arguing, as I mentioned, stay above the fray, think deep rather than wide. In a world where everyone wants to go wide, right? It's all about being viral and trying to go to the farthest reaches of the earth. Consider going deep. Like I keep your lane, very tight, but try to go as deep into that and be as well established as, authority in that space as possible. That's tremendously valuable. In many ways, perhaps more than trying to have as wide of a reach as possible, which I think the modern world sort of promotes, but there's value in deep, not wide. And a few other things: authority and authenticity. So not just the strong, clear voice, but also being real and being vulnerable and being a person that people can connect with. Clarity and consistency. So being clear in what you say, but also you can't just be an authority by saying something really good one time. You've got to consistently build on that messaging. And then strong visual and verbal messaging. Look good. You have to attract the eye and the ear with what you're saying, and then use these other things to kind of build on that and keep all that consistent and strong. So for a few minutes, I would love to have you just kind of look at this and talk through this. And there's actually a workshop I'll show you here, or a worksheet rather, that will be sent to everyone that's on the call today. But just before you do that, that's for you, homework, if you will. You can kind of work on that worksheet. But I want you to think about, what is one step I can take to become more of an authority brand? And think about, if it's you personally or your business. And then the next question you should ask is, why would this be valuable to me or my business, right? It's not about just being an authority brand just to be one, but think about, what we talked about as far as trust and things like that. Like, why would that be valuable? And then the question there is, why would it be valuable to your customers? Like, if it's not valuable to your customers, then it's not valuable to you. But and then here's a statement that I'd love for you to write down and sort of fill in the blank on. By committing to becoming an authority brand by doing something. So that's your commitment there. My business will be able to better blank. So the first blank is what you're going to do. And then your business will be able to better do something. What will be the result of that? So does that make sense? That's kind of the idea. We don't have that much longer, but I would love for you to maybe just put your answers in the chat, or somebody wants to unmute and answer one of these questions. That would be excellent. I'd love to hear from you. So we'll take a minute or two to get any responses to that. If you have some. Oh, that's the worksheet, but I'll leave these up for a minute. If anyone wants to share some ideas or some answers to one of these questions. It's okay if you don't have an answer. Feel free, again, to write these down and sort of think through them. I realize people are sort of just seeing this for the first time, but I'd love to know, even just for yourself, right? It's starting that exercise of thinking through why would this be important for you, either as a personal brand or a professional brand. Once again, sort of here's the worksheet to take the next steps after you have the answers to those questions and you have that brand authority statement sort of filled in. Think about what your current brand position or perception is, what you desire it to be, thinking about what it means to become an authority brand. And then how will this impact what you say or what you share, how you say the things you say, how you communicate your brand, and then where. So thinking about that being where your customers and clients are, what are the channels and platforms where you can reach that audience to allow you to be able to become that authority brand. So again, all of the participants will get this worksheet, and that's something that you can work through on your own time. And I just want to close with this quote. Again, your brand, not just about giving people something to buy, it's about giving them something to believe in. And so as you think about what it means to be an authority brand, it's all about giving people something to believe in. It's about leadership, not about telling people what to do or how to think or to buy from you, but really inspiring them, influencing them, and giving them the information in a digestible way that allows them to really be able to trust you and to trust what you're saying and to trust that you know want what's good for them. And if you do that, I mean, you'll be considered an authority. And as we talked about, that will create lots of opportunities for you and for your business. So here's my contact information real quick. Our next Luncheon Lab, we do this every month on the third Friday, excuse me, from 12 to 1. Our next one will be October 21st. And I'm really excited because I'll have some of my partners in a little venture called Elevate Your Brand. We'll be talking about visual brand content development. So I definitely hope that you'll be able to attend that. And that's it. I will stop my share. Thank you guys.